A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Techgig webinar series. The topic for today's session is Every Business is a Digital Business. And I would like to introduce our two esteemed speakers today, Mr. Jayant Swami and Mr. Sanjeev Vora. Before handing over the session to our speakers, I would like to take a moment here and quickly introduce our speakers. Mr. Jayant Swami is the lead architecture, development and integration at Accenture's Global Delivery Centers. Mr. Vora is the MD Technology Platform Delivery Lead, Global Delivery Network at Accenture. Mr. Swami is a graduate of IIT Roorkee. He completed a dual Masters in Systems Science and Architecture at Louisiana State University in 1997. He subsequently joined Oracle Corporation as a software consultant, leading their network, computing and e-commerce practice out of Reston, Virginia. In 2004, he joined Fannie Mae to architect and implement an end-to-end custom ERP system for mortgages to manage their $2.3 trillion book of business. At Accenture, he is helping to prepare architectural and technology capabilities for the new generation of technologies, which in turn will help the company build tangible solutions for the digital age. Our next speaker, Mr. Sanjeev Vora. He has over 22 years of experience in the high-tech, telecommunication, engineering and consumer goods industries. He has been serving in Accenture Bangalore for the past 12 years. He has significant experience delivering complex system integration solutions, especially in ERP. Sanjeev is driving a strategic program to hone consulting skills in Accenture Global Delivery Network. He holds a master's degree in technology management. So without any further delay, I will now hand over the session to Jayant and Sanjeev. Over to you.
Hi, this is Sanjeev Vora. Thanks for the introduction, and thanks for everybody to participate in this session. I'm hoping that you can see the screen in front of you.
Yes.
The topic of today is thank you. The topic of today is every business is a digital business. We will take time to explain you what we have in store for you today. But let me set the format for today. What we're going to be doing is we'll share with you first about our Accenture vision on technology. And that's a research we do every year and we publish every year. So we'll give you insight about the tech vision that just rolled out yesterday, which is called as Accenture Technology Vision for 2014. And then we will not bore you much with theory and get you to see some practical use cases of how this new technologies or emerging technologies are being put into use for solving business problems. And then we will talk to you about what's in store for people like us, all of us, and then land into a summary. That's our format, right? Very simple for today. We will definitely have Q&A, so we'll be more than helpful, more than happy to kind of answer or try to answer as many questions as you can put across. Let me just move the next slide. There may be a lag of a few seconds, but you will probably be able to see in a few seconds from now, unless you've seen it now.
Yes, so I can view this. I can view the slide now.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So if you see the slide right now, you see a tagline: "Every business is a digital business." That is our subject of our technology vision 2014. We had a very similar subject line or tagline for last year 2013, and that's why it's written, the evolution of that vision. So we are kind of extending our vision that we published last year. The circles, I will get there very soon. The circles depict the evolution that has happened over the last 1 year. But before I get there, I need to just give you context on what we do and why we release this technology vision. Right? So we have been doing this for last many years. This is a yearly exercise for us. We have a research team in Accenture that works with our clients that works with industry experts, and that works with our own projects teams who are delivering solutions, technology solutions to our clients. And they come back with a distilled information about setting up key mega trends for the future, which can shape up our technology and our client businesses. So that's what happens every year. It also sets a good stage and platform for our clients to think about how they can exploit the emerging technologies for becoming a more successful business. And it also has an impact, as you can really appreciate, on how people like us and our companies can look at this vision and retool, reskill ourselves to be relevant, to remain relevant in the ecosystem going forward. So that's the context. Now, if you see this vision, if you look at the inner circle, those were 7 trends that we plotted last year. If you can't see it clearly, then let me just read out in your interest. So you have relationship at scale, design for analytics, data velocity, seamless collaboration, software-defined networking, active defense beyond the cloud. Now, I'll not go in detail about this vision because I'd rather spend time on what's happening this year. But I'm very hopeful that you can relate to some words which is being mentioned in this vision, right? But that was our last year vision. What we have done as we have looked at those visions, this year we have come out with 6 trends, and I'll definitely spend a few minutes on that before we share some live examples or use cases with you on what's happening in the industry. But just to make it very simple for you, I mean, the whole thing about digital, right, being digital, and you may be listening everywhere in the press, media, your own companies, if you're working, your colleges, academics, everything. So everybody's talking about digital. This is not new, right? Some of these trends have been there for the last 7 years. But the key thing is evolution, which means that they have been there, but in many of the large enterprises, they have been more like an experimenting ground, right? In some companies, they have actually exploited that very well to make headway in their businesses. For example, Twitter, right? I mean, some of the startup companies, I mean, Instagram. I mean, those companies have taken this much ahead of anybody else in the industry, overall industry, and use that to their advantage, if you may. But what shift that we see going forward is that digital business, digital technologies are not only meant for high-tech companies or startups anymore, but it's also for all industry and all large enterprises that are now embracing this as we go forward. And that's a shift that we have seen in the last couple of years. So now every company talks about it, right? The companies which are in the industries, our clients, they think about how do they use these digital technologies to disrupt their own businesses, right? To make changes in their business for favorable outcomes, obviously. And the same thing with companies like ours, which is in services industry. They are looking at this technology, adopting all these technologies to create solutions that can, in effect, change their client businesses for favorable outcomes. So if I just move down, right? If you look at the various trends that there are, and I'll possibly spend a few minutes on this before I hand over to my dear friend Jayant Swami to give you some examples of how we have used it effectively for generating some good value for our clients. Let's go one by one. I mean, and again, I'll keep it very light given the interest of time. So if you look at digital physical blur, I think key thing here to note is that this is a very important trend, and you may already be seeing it in your day-to-day life as a consumer while you use technology. But what we are seeing is that there is a convergence between man, machine, and software, and that's coming out very evident in many instances. So if I pick up an example to take home, then you will see companies like General Electric, right, who are spending enormous money on industrial internet, which means that they are spending money on getting data from data, the relevant data from the machines and sensors to draw analytics and then change the business decisions, right, for effective operations. You see, and I'm just giving industrial example, but there could be many examples in healthcare. There could be many examples, very simplistic examples for consumers, which could be things like Google Glass, right, being used effectively for generating any advantage to a consumer or user, right. We are right now doing an engagement in the healthcare where we are using Google Glass effectively for the surgeons to make them more productive while they are in the operation theater. So those are some of the examples where you will see a convergence of a device or a machine with the human beings, and along with the software which comes along as a glue between the two. The second trend is about workforce to crowdsource, and this is something very big and could be very disruptive in the years to come, which is all about using workforce beyond your own boundaries. So there's a lot of effort going on in this space where because of connected platforms available, for example, social, platforms, collaboration technologies, I think you can reach out to people which are not on your payroll and still get work done, across the globe. Some examples that exist and you may want to watch out is Amazon's Mechanical Turks, where you can outsource the work and as a supplier, and you can also go and buy services in the same tool, right? So that's something we need to watch out for, and it could have consequence and impact on various industries going forward. The third one is about data supply chain, and that's quite profound. So we all have lived, in fact, not all, I think many of us who have spent a lot of time in the industry have lived many years creating data models in silos, right, and then creating reports for static reports, just descriptive analytics, right, static reports for our users. Those times are going away. Last year, we talked about data velocity, right, saying that how can data be processed at faster speed, right, beyond having variety of data which is coming from structured and unstructured data sources. But the key thing now, that trend we see, is that beyond all that, we have to look at data from supply chain perspective, which means you need to use hardware, you need to use software, you need to use intelligence in a fashion that you can process data at any stage of supply chain and draw inferences that could be very meaningful for taking decisions. Those are changes which are happening, and then things like, just to make it home, things like Hadoop, open source technologies, big data, those are things which are being now, and appliances which are coming from various companies, hardware companies, are very important tools which are being used for making it as a possibility. Harnessing hyperscale, again, this is another topic where which talks about hardware is being back, right? Which again goes very much to the point that I just mentioned, that there's a lot of research and a lot of investments being done in the hardware space, which means raw power of computing and making it very easy to and accessible for usage. So there are a lot of appliances, being created, and also the whole thing about cloud. If you see Amazon Cloud, I mean, the usage of that cloud infrastructure is now quite pervasive as we go along. The next one is about business applications, which is not going to go. Many of us are in that business, which is about creating software. But the key thing here to note is that the expectation from software development is changing, right, from our business. So people want software to be delivered faster and at less cost, obviously. So what's happening? Agile development is in a big way for many of the things which are we developing. You will also see that everything is getting now rendered through various channels. For example, mobile devices, your phones, smartphones, iPads, and so on and so forth. So that change is very inevitable, and that also leads to creating widgets of applications or apps, which you call, right, that can help send the right information at a much more faster rate to the consumer. And last but not the least is about architecting resilience, which means while we do all those things, I mean, there are a lot of risk about security. There's a lot of expectation on how you architect a particular infrastructure on IT that is more scalable, that is high in performance, and that's also lives 24/7 expectation from clients and the businesses. So, resilience is now built into the IT infrastructure. There are many clients that we know that who cannot even afford to shut down their systems for even half an hour, right, on an annual basis. So that's an expectation that is happening for business. So architecture has to accommodate that. The infrastructure has to accommodate that need, which is now becoming more and more demanding. Yeah. So those are some of the things that we are right now working on. That's our vision that is going to shape up the industry going forward. Digital is everywhere, and what we think is that there are companies who would wait for other companies to adopt digital in their own businesses, in their industries, but there will be also companies who will try to disrupt their own businesses. And we believe that the companies who are going to be, who will be taking this challenge for embracing technology and using it to their effect will definitely get more competitive advantage than others. With that, I'll just hand over to Jayant, who's along with me to kind of share a couple of examples to you so that you can see how this theory is applied to the practicality and how we are using this in field.
Thanks, Sanjeev. So it's an exciting time to be in technology. So it's I'm sure a number of things that Sanjeev just talked about. Many of them actually did not. We weren't a few years back, 5 years back. We took 5 years back. Many of these were not around. Some of these companies were not around. So I think the rate of change is dramatic. A few years back there was this concept of Moore's law. So everybody's aware of it. And Sanjeev alluded to it himself. In his about harnessing hyperscale. That is changing, and that law is still continuing. What was 25 years ago, monstrosity in terms of a desktop. I think most probably your camera has more power, or your cell phone has more powers, maybe multiple times more power than that desktop a few years back. So I think that technology is going to continue to change. And somebody said today, the underlying math hasn't changed, the science hasn't changed, but what has changed is computing power. Our ability to harness that has changed. What has made it is our ability to leverage technology to make it work for us is rapidly changing. And the cost of doing it is also changing. Earlier technology of things of this kind was available only inside large organizations. You had to be inside an IBM. You had to be inside a GE or a Bell Labs to be accessing cutting-edge technology. That is changing very dramatically. That barrier is coming down. That barrier to entry has started coming down even from the time a new technology comes out till the time it goes in terms of mass market. That radar has come down very substantially. It's within 2 to 3 years we see that coming down. So I think it's a very exciting time to be there. Sanjeev, now I'll say a few people, many people on this group, I'm sure almost everybody, we are all doing this over the internet from now, and all of us would be having Facebook accounts. All of us, many of us are very athletic in our lives. We are either playing basketball or badminton or something, and running. Maybe I'm hoping many of you are participating in some marathon or a cycle event that's happening later this week, and you'd like to track how you're doing. You've got some sort of a wearable device. Could be a Fitbit, could be a Jawbone, it could be any of those, because you like to go back and see how you did. You like to share notes. Most probably take your stats and put it back on Facebook and say, hey, I did better than you, or you did better than me. And I think there is a very natural tendency to do that. In a sense, what we've just done is, one is we've kind of made our information, data that we took about ourselves, we've taken that, brought it in the gamification manner, we brought it against our own friends, relatives, groups. It opens up multiple dimensions here. One is, yes, the aspect that we are able to share that information. The other aspect is around do we want to share that information? So you will hear about that as we move forward. But the key thing is we are wanting to capture this information, our heartbeats, our pulse rates, our speed at which we are running, and we want to share that information. Our ability to do that is great. The other areas which we have, a theme that's happening is, Sanjeev talked about the 2013 vision and then 2014 vision. Does that mean the 2013 vision went away and it's now suddenly 2014? No, I think what the key thing there to take away is that 2013, that those things are evolving, but the rate of change is so high. Our radar for technology is ever expanding. So we need to keep, as those technologies from 2013, things around the cloud, things around mobility, things around analytics, they continue to stay, but they are becoming much more foundational. It is no longer they continue to evolve, but it is very important for us to understand how this vision that we're looking forward, how it gets applied to our business, this blur between physical and digital. Physical, it has to be incorporated into our technologies. Our technologies need to be incorporated into our businesses. And that's what Sanjeev mentioned glass. And he also alluded to, it's a really cool case where we've actually taken it for one of our clients, and you're able to, doctors doing surgery is able to pull up data on a tumor. He's seeing a tumor, the camera picks it up, relays it back, the tumor is identified against an analytics engine at the back, matches it up against similar situations, gets information back to the doctor. He has not removed his eyes off the patient, and he's able to get it on his screen, right above his goggles, to see, hey, what happened in those situations, and he's able to use that information in, and addressing the situation right there. So, I think there's going to be a lot of information. Our ability to use that is going to be key. So there's a lot of technology that's going to come that's going to look for a business use. And I think that's where it is going to get really exciting to take this and make it usable. The other area where we've seen, which is, I'm sure you all seen this as well, or at least heard about it, is the usability of drones. I'm sure you've heard of drones, and I hope you've heard it. And now, largely, it has been in the past. It's been the domain of the military and security devices. But it's a few days back, Jeff Bezos made a statement that in 5 years, Amazon will be delivering packages by drones. It's a very unique thought, which means you go to your website, you order, within a couple of hours, you have a drone outside your house dropping off your package. Yes, not sure how realistic it is in various parts of the world, but definitely if you think about it in remote areas, it's a great way to get things done. So it is not something in the future only. So one of the things is drones are being used today. There are many industries, especially the oil and natural gas industry. They're using it for to go and inspect pipelines in remote areas. So these are very real-time uses that are being seen for these emerging technologies. One of the other themes that you see as we evolve through this is, one of the common themes is going to be two things that will show up. Is we are in a changing world, which means, one, we are very rapidly evolving these technologies. A number of things are going to come up, but then these technologies are going to evolve us as well, which means we are capturing a lot of, and I'll take two themes and I'll drill down into that a little bit, so that gives you some sense of it, and then we'll move to some questions so that then we'll have some time with everybody. Let me take this, it's about, a lot of it is about data. We are, as I mentioned, we are in a stage where the whole move to digital means everything is getting recorded. Be it your Facebook account, be it your email, you are moving from location A to location B, your travel, things get recorded, which means there is data that's being captured. What does that mean? And how do we, does that data actually, can we make the data work to help us make better decisions, improve our lives. How can we do that? Because at some point, this data is not very structured. It's not like, it's not like my grocery bill that I could see everything very clearly mentioned, right? I bought two things of this, two things of this. It's very loosely structured communications, many of them. Some of them are audio communication, some of them are video communication. There are mechanisms, technologies are getting better at translating those audio video into transcript text format, and then, for instance, if all of those who have Google Voice or a iPhone 5, you must probably playing around with Siri. So you're interacting with those machines and getting responses back in a textual format as well. So how do we use this data? So let me walk you through an example. This is one situation where there was the trigger for this analysis was there was this situation is based in the US, where there was a very high incident rate of high accident rate on interstate truck travel. And so there was an analysis that was initiated to determine why are we seeing sudden spike over a period of about a year of these situations. So when we went back and did the analysis, we had to look at a lot of data. So one of the key things that this was data which is public data, which is public accident data, which is in terms of police records and things like that, which are available and made available by the insurance companies as well. And then you have social media, which is people chatting, drivers communicating, others talking as well. We pulled in economic data, we pulled in news articles, we pulled in videos, we pulled in a lot of Google chatter and blogs as well. And that's what we did the analysis on. And we started to see a pattern. And that's what we tried to kind of pull back into this analysis. And a lot of travel we noticed was large interstate was along the East Coast for one thing. And there was one either along the coast. So the accidents were fewer in the middle of the country. They were definitely much more, and that's just because of the nature of the population, which was fine. But then when we drilled down, and here's where we started seeing when we tracked this data back into, it had nothing, there was no correlation found with either the brand of the car or, those are the first ones to be, to rule out, right? Is it associated with a particular brand of car, or is it a particular state, or, those are the typical first questions to answer. Is there a defect in that car or something like that? But, there was no particular correlation that could be identified. So you had to drill down to start tracking against economic data and across news articles and blog and chatter articles, where we started picking up a thread, which was really what we started noticing was these were the drivers who were having these accidents were drivers who were doing this as a second job. This was not their primary job, which means they were spending their daytime on a regular job, and they would go spend the night driving across town, and they would invariably sleep on the wheel. And that information you could not get by just looking at just the driver, or so they were not. It's not like they were drunk or they're not. So those were the first level of this. So the second tier of analysis is what starts showing up a pattern. And in this case, we started determining that. Now, what that did trigger was an awareness campaign. It started an awareness campaign to educate that group. It put it on the radar of the cops to flag such people and be more proactive, and whole ad campaign went up on this, etc. So that's to give you an idea of how we need to correlate these. We have the technology now to help make our lives better. And I think that's a good thing. That said, let me move to another example which we are doing. I'm going to ask, I'm going to play a small video, and then I'll talk about this. Is about, security is a very core aspect of ours, both online and physical security. moving as technology is dramatically changing all around us. Security is an aspect again which is changing. How we protect ourselves both physically and online, and is very core. So here's something where which is, and this is an evolving space. There's no it's not like there's one right answer. There are many. Let me walk you through one scenario where we've had to work making our lives better.
You have the symbol on your passport. If you do, you can go through the stage.
So I hope you were able to get that video. When you think about security and immigration and going across countries, the first thing is, especially in the post 9/11 era, and for those of us who traveled across cities, you'd think we're going to do more checks, more background checks, more things, which means a first mind that comes in is, oh, more means more time. It's going to take me longer, and that's what in the video highlighted: longer lines, waiting for and that's where one of the solutions that we've worked closely with in this area is how we can use technology to make, just because we have to do more does not mean it has to be onerous or it has to make life difficult. Technology can help us make it simpler and cleaner. This is where we used, what you saw was we used face recognition technologies. You use biometrics, you use a number of things in this space, quite cutting edge, to actually make getting through that customs and immigration almost a breeze. People came there, stood there, walked right through. So I think our ability to use these technologies to make our lives better is going to be key. I'm sure you would have heard of the refrigerators having connectivity, and you're able to dial in your food request to your refrigerator. So things like that are coming up, and how much do we want to do that? It's going to be interesting. Something that, one of the scenarios which I want to kind of quickly talk about very briefly is about how we've used data in ways near. It's not an Accenture thing, but we've seen in October of 2013, there was this big storm that went through, the Phelan, which was a huge storm, and we evacuated, the government evacuated close to 1 million folks. There were 7 casualties which were recorded, and the amount of coordination that went in if you look at the backbone of it, it was based on how much data they collected on the storm, how much logistics was involved in moving those people, bringing in. At the end of the day, that data was used for improving the quality of the people. A decade back during the tsunami, we didn't have these systems. So I think we've used, as such, we started using technology to make our lives better. I think that's the key message I would say is important. I want to switch to, we've talked about technology from both how it's evolving, how it's changing, its applications, a couple of areas where we're seeing them in our daily lives as well. But what does it mean? I'm a software developer, I'm coming out, I'm driving towards this. What does this mean for me? How does Accenture look at this? How does, so we're going to take that, as I said, when I started, as I said, it's a very exciting time to be in technology. There's a lot of change that's happening, which means I need to learn. It's a great opportunity to learn. It's a great opportunity to make a change, to make a difference in this space. So I think the way I look at it is a number of technologies are coming up. Let's start. Is it Java? Yes. Is it Python? Yes. Is it data mining? Yes. Why am I not saying no to anything? Because we are moving where you are going to be needing a number of technologies to make a solution work. It's not going to be one thing that will do it all. It's going to be, and your ability to adapt to that change. Tomorrow there'll be a new thing that will come up. Your ability to adapt into that new technology is going to make that difference. It will make you, one, more competitive. It will help you make a decision faster. As we talked at the beginning as well, that rate of change is increasing, that it's accelerating. The time it becomes, things are available to you. Today, you can go and download an entire SDK and the GDK and build it on your laptop. It is not, nothing is stopping you from doing it. So things like that, I think I would highly encourage you to leverage that and be there and drive that change. It's a great opportunity, as I mentioned, constantly keep learning. You do not know, keep experimenting. Do not be afraid of failing in this space, because if you have to fail, fail fast is one thing which I would say, and learn. There is no downside to that experimentation aspect of it. So with that, I will pause, and I will see if there are any questions coming up, and I'll put Sanjeev back in as well to kind of take some questions that are coming from you as well. So while we're waiting, let me complete this last slide as well. Because so far it's what we've been talking about. All right, so we've got a question here. One second, let me read this out. How will you implement the 2013 evolution using 2014? I'm assuming that's the vision, as change rate is increasing rapidly.
Yeah,
Sanjeev, do you want to?
Yeah, I think it's I mean, you have to, as I said, you have to look at the vision as key mega trends, right? This is, and if you see these trends, one thing I've missed mentioning earlier is not all of them are the same level of maturity. So they're all evolving trends, right? Some must be more mature, some are less, and some maybe still very nascent in their trends, right? In their adoption. So, as I said, 2013 and 14 are no more different. It's just an evolution. We're just looking at, we just added a few things to our vision, which was there in 2013, and we also brought synergies, right? This is all happening now for our clients. So From usage perspective, I think Jen shared some examples. There are hundreds of more examples, right, where clients are looking at using these technologies to put very simply to their advantage. And to make it very simple, there could be two kind of advantages. One is how are you using these technologies to expand your market, which is how can you use this technology to grow your business, right? That's what I call as customer and channel side of markets. And the second piece is how you use the technologies to be more efficient. So you increase your capital efficiency and you become more productive as an organization. So, and that's what I call it enterprise area. So there are two sides of the coin. I think that's will be the simplistic answer in terms of how this can be shaped up.
Great. So here's another question which has come up, and I think I have heard a few people asking the same question, so I'll kind of paraphrase this one. What are the skills I need to explore opportunities in this new space? So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, it's a great question because I think this is it's a very broad space. Let me break it down into a number of areas. What are the core competencies that you need, and then there are a number of other areas which you. So definitely, you pick up whether it is be strong in a core programming language, right? Have your fundamentals very core, right? So when we say technology, it's not. So be very clear on what is the. So be it a Java, be it C++, be very strong in one core, have a deep knowledge in one of these areas. It's very important. Then you get into the other areas which are more application oriented. Now, are you going to say, is it going to be more I'm looking at more user interface related items, HTML5, jQuery, some of those areas, or I'm going to go more, I'm very passionate towards core computing, and I want to be the more operating level, system level. I want to look at data. I want to look at data algorithms in that space. Let me look at the way it is Hadoop, or these are all things that are available to you to let you mine things. Data mining lets you span across things. Or you could go into a content management space, which is, say, an Adobe CQ5 or a IBM Stack or in the open source world, Alfresco. So you have various applications. So the way I look at it is you have a core depth in a particular area, choose that area, build yourself strength in that area, then have multiple strengths in some of those other areas as well. The other thing which I will tell you here, which is changing very dramatically, is about experience. Do not discount some of your other experiences that you're having. If you have interest in, in the arts, if you're a good artist, keep that up. It helps. Presentation skills are very valuable. Do not lose that. Those are all very key skills as we move forward. As in a couple of examples that I showed, one of the things was, as we get more and more data, our ability to pull that data together and make something meaningful is going to be key. And just more is not better. Taking that more data and making it useful is that's where the art comes in. The technology will be there to help us, but how we use it is the art. I hope that helps explain that to some extent. I have one other question, which Sanjeev, I think maybe you can take this one. How does India play a role in the growth for digital?
India as a nation?
Yeah, and generally as as we are developing, I guess. So
I can answer in two parts. One is, what is India's role in the overall business, IT services business, right? And how do we see that shaping up? And the second could be within Accenture, within our own company, and how we are seeing India's contribution. The first one is, I think there's no doubt that the raw talent that we have in India at the scale that is required to transform these businesses is difficult to find anywhere else, and we have proven it in our in the last many years, if you may, right? So I I see this as an opportunity for our people who have been in this business, right, which I call it like the IT, software development, the way you understand that. It's a great opportunity for those people to get retooled, reskill, upskill, right, the way you were explaining, Jayant, a few minutes back, and start looking at these new technologies and adopting them, and be ready for the change. Right? We will see a massive transformation of the way we do development of software to what's going to happen in a few years, right? So getting ready for that is extremely important, and I think the intellectual capacity the country has, I have no doubts at all that that we won't be able to do it, right? And we will probably be ahead of anybody else. And there's so many examples already that exist. I will not name those examples in this call. There's so many examples which already exist, the companies which are making that mark already from India. So that to me is the role of an India. And from Accenture perspective, we have a digital offerings for our clients. I will encourage all of you to go to Accenture.com and look at our digital offering sets. And you will come to know, I don't know if I've explained on the call, you'll come to know how we are positioning ourselves in the marketplace. And you will see some key statistics also in terms of how many people are working on these engagements, what kind of work we are doing in digital. All things are available on Accenture.com website. I just want to make a mention that India, for us, within our Accenture digital practice, is a very important hub. It's the largest hub of skills and capabilities right now in our global landscape. So that's how we see it, and it's growing at a very rapid pace.
Thanks, Sanjeev. So one of the other questions which came in is, which will be the dominant platform for the digital era? So, and I think here's where I think you will see both consolidation and fragmentation. So I'll explain what that means, because, for instance, in the mobile spaces, right? A few years back, you had, a number of players were doing there, and there were new players. So, and Apple wasn't even there till 2007. Apple wasn't even there. BlackBerry and Nokia ruled the world. And then you saw Apple come in with iOS. And then slowly right after that, you saw Android come in. And then it became Android versus iOS. And BlackBerry had a few setbacks, right? Since that time, it struggled to kind of catch up, as did Nokia's original platform. So Nokia has kind of made a leap to, to Windows 8 in the mobility platform, and it's made a strong play to come back and be a competitor to both Android and iOS. Now, iOS is a closed platform, whereas Android is an open one. Now, you do see within that itself, you see Android, while generally you see Android being available to everybody, but it is an open platform, which means every vendor takes it and builds his own version of it, which means then you're tied to that version of that vendor's version. There is a core version available for certain devices. So there is fragmentation within that Android ecosystem itself. So is there going to be one dominant platform? No, I do not think there's going to be. Even within, there'll be frameworks which will come up within each of these, and I think we'll see different groupings, I would say. So you're definitely at this point in time, you're seeing 2-3 core groupings, right? You do definitely see the more proprietary ones around, which are more around the traditional ones that we know of, the IBM, the Microsoft stack, and then we see the stack around more in the enterprise world. You'll see things around SAP, Oracle, IBM. You see those traditional ones. But another theme which is starting to come up very consistently is an open source as a driver. So that whole community-based thing is starting to come up. We are starting to see that a little bit more. And it was earlier more in the domain of startups, etc. earlier. So groups like Facebook and Google were built more on that space, more in the high-tech industry. But that is making a progress into the enterprise as well. So hopefully that helped answer some of this around, is there going to be a dominant platform that will emerge? I don't think it will be a dominant, but there'll be a few which will start emerging as we move forward. Let me move to the next question. How does Accenture see the prospects in mobile computing? Again, as we talked, we see mobility is going to be huge, right? How many of us actually use a mobile device to actually reach out either? It is so much more than a phone now. Mobility has become almost second nature to us now. This is, and I'm talking in India now, even in slightly more advanced countries, Western countries, it's being leveraged even further, where infrastructure is further advanced. Investments are made in infrastructure space much more. So mobility is going to be key. Is it going to be, are we going to see great advances in it? Absolutely. So you're going to see a lot of innovation in that space as well. There is, and this is where the blur, mobility, here's where I think you're going to see a blur between the physical and digital world, because things that devices that you wear, wearable computing, these are things that you'll see very, very often now as you move forward. And mobility, phones as we know it may be one device, but will it hold on to the same form factor that you are currently used to? May not be. It may change in the way we communicate may change. So I think we need to be aware of that and adapt to that as well. Let me see if there are any other, few more other questions, a number of other questions coming up. Let me just make sure that we can. Let's see this one. How about security in digital world, especially with a lot of sensitive data getting used by different applications? So let me take a first stab at this, and then maybe Sanjeev, you can weigh in as well. So I think key thing here is, and people who've seen this is, this is a very, very important subject. It's a difficult subject as well. There are two parts to this, and one is it's about user behavior, and second is about technology as well. So one portion of it is how we interact with the technology. We have a certain, we need to manage that, we need to educate people about that. And that is something that is, because you cannot solve a number of these things through technology only. But then there is a large proportion of this which can be done using technology. How we store it, how we capture it, how we share it, most of this, and the other thing which I'll tell you is, yes, apart from the ones where you see a lot of major hacking that happens and data that is stolen, or credit card that's information that's stolen and used, yes, those happen. But when you look at it in the larger picture of things, most of the breaches that happen, just based on industry analysis, happens due to insider information. People inside who are there have access to that information. There are not enough. Who have access to that information, the controls fail. So I think it is a difficult subject. Security is tough, especially where data is involved. But it is an area where a number of things are coming up, right from encryption, how we store it, seclusion, how we transport that data, and how we dispose of the data. Because earlier, that was another aspect. Earlier, people said when you dispose of data, it goes away. Well, and that's where people are figuring out that there is, even when you dispose of data, is it really gone? And I think that's the other portion of it, where how do you get rid of data? And it is going to be an area of very key innovation, I think, in the next couple of years. You're going to see dramatic movement in this area as well. It's going to be an area of a lot of growth as well, and innovation. Sanjeev, did you want to add anything to that message? Question?
No, I think you said it all. I mean, this is one area where I personally believe there could be. I mean, I think there are two areas where I think, from technology standpoint, there will be big investments. One is security, and the second is performance, because both of them, would declare the effectiveness of technology to solve business problems. Rest of all the things are in a pretty good shape, or are pretty advanced, right? But these two areas have to become to a level, to have to come to a level to solve, the new transformation in this industry.
Thanks, Sanjeev. So I think we've got time for a couple of questions. Couple of questions. All right, we'll take a couple of more questions and then we'll close out. Sanjeev, there was a question that's come out in how are services and product delivery being affected by this rapid change in technology?
Okay, so the product delivery, I think. Okay, let's go on to services. I think. So the only thing which I'm not so sure is it meant for IT services and product delivery, or is it the clients?
I'm not sure. I think it's more technology services.
Technology services. So okay, from technology services, I think because our role is to kind of help clients realize the benefit of new technologies, right? That's our role. So I think in terms of services that we have given earlier, I think going forward, the expectation from the clients will be much higher in terms of what we can draw, how they can draw value from IT. Right? So I see going forward, clients' expectation would be more value driven, right? If I say the services that will be more value driven than it has been in the past, because the basic commodity work, the basic outsourcing work, the basic support stuff is all running very well. And it's extremely competitive. Will the client rely on a service provider to help them in the future? Obviously, yes. I mean, will they have a money associated allocated for that activity? Yes. But you know what? In the last 1 year, we do a research called as high performing business research. As an outcome of that research, and we have seen a shift over the last couple of years. So if 2 years back you would have asked me, those high-performing companies, which are all global, the global 1,000 companies, right? How they are spending money. 3 years back, what we felt was that 37% of the money was being spent in the new strategic areas, right? In the last few months, the research suggests that the same companies, and maybe some with some few additions here and there, they are serving 55% of the money in the strategic initiative, which means the trend is changing. They'll put more money into this area for using technology to be more effective in their businesses. And they will expect value coming out of it. So it's not a cost play. It's a value play.
Absolutely.
And delivery, I think I've just answered the second one itself in a minute, right? In delivery, I think they will expect faster time to market. So I don't think any clients now want to give a year for a deployment. They want to give few months for deployment, and they're okay to not have the entire functionality. They're okay to have 70% functionality, but they're ready to give you less time than they used to go earlier to show them something which is real and effective. Over to you.
Fair enough. I think Sanjeev, that's great. So thanks for that. I think it's you're absolutely right. I think we'll take one last question and then we'll close out. So which ones? There are a number of them. So thank you for your questions. We will try to see if we can get some of these responded back post the call. Let me take this one. You mentioned that drones will be helpful in remote areas in a few years, but internet connectivity and reachability will have to be much more. Absolutely. So there is a inherent dependence on technology and in this. But I would also tell you is, in countries, definitely in India especially, right, technology is changing and we are adopting this at such a high pace. We are actually almost leapfrogging over some intermediate technologies and going to the more advanced ones. India has got more adoption of cell phone technology than the other areas. So our ability, it has empowered our rural areas much more. The cell phone has been I think a great connectivity boon in India, I think. So I think there will be areas here which the infrastructure will definitely have to, in some cases infrastructure will lead the way, in some other cases the use case will drive there and the infrastructure will have to catch up. So I think it'll be a chicken and egg a little bit.
There's a question about how about integrating different application in an organization to make it completely digital. Yeah, I think that's a great question. We did this in our organization. If you go and look at Accenture.com, you will find out what I'm saying. But what we did is we built a practice around it by bringing various groups together, right? And I think many of us know what those groups could be, and it's about mobility, mobile, analytics groups, data analytics. It's about social. It's about cloud. This is what we hear. But I think what we should not miss is a few other things that Jen mentioned earlier. That there's the things which gets missed out in conversations, which is extremely impactful for this practice and this business and this organization, is that we need to have a strong talent on open source. A lot of stuff is happening in open source, right? Which is extremely cost effective and which is very new, right? Which helps solve problems. We need to also, we cannot underestimate the integration layer. How the front end stuff that we talked about, which is all what you see, integrates back to the back end systems which are being running for 2 decades in any client organization. That's not changing, right? So how do we integrate with them? So that's integration stuff. And the third thing is about the whole thing about experience, right? Experience is key. Experience is what you see, right? So we all have got used to experience. I mean, I was in US last week and I had some alternate phone, which is the old Nokia phone, if you recollect. And because I had a problem with my iPhone, so I had to open up that phone after a long time. It was a charged phone. I put a SIM card inside that, start running immediately. That means it was a good technology. At that point of view, it still works. But believe me, I mean, I could not text a message because I'm not used to doing that for the last 5 years, 6 years, I don't know. So I struggled to text a message, 2-line message, because I'm not used to doing that. So that's a change which has happened, in terms of experience. So I'll leave it there. I think we are off the time right now.
Great.
I'll hand it over back to the organizer. But I really want to say, on behalf of Accenture, we want to say thank you to all of you to attend this session. And we were very pleased to be here. It was a good use of our time.
Great. Thank you. Absolutely agree with you, Sanjeev.
Thank you so much, Jayant and Sanjeev, for that insightful presentation. And yes, I think we got a lot of questions today, and as I can see, a lot more questions are still pouring in. So what I'm going to suggest and ask all the attendees probably to come and post all these questions on the discussion forum of techgig.com, or to mail these queries directly to us. And we would be able to take it forward with our experts today. The session, the recording of today's session will also be available on our site by tomorrow afternoon. So please request all of you to come back, and probably if you have missed out any part of the session, you can come back and go through it. And if there is any suggestion, any question whatsoever, please drop in a mail. Thank you so much once again, Jayant and Sanjeev, for the presentation.
Absolutely. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Have a great day.